Patricia, are you
Good
ready?
morning. I'm ready.
Let's do this. So, funny story. I had someone actually scheduled for today, and there was just a miscommunication. I guess they thought it was going to be next Friday, and it was like, I mean, literally the minute I found that out, my I knew who I'm going to call, and I was so happy because I didn't know she had closings. Actually, you did have some closings today, but you hadn't had them scheduled or something, so you were like, I can make it work. So I'm so glad you were able to accommodate us. I know it was kind of last minute, and but let's get straight to this. Give us a little information. I know you're born and raised in El Paso. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and growing up in El Paso, and of course, I want to get to really your story, which is not only your personal story but your professional story as well.
So, yes, I was born and raised here in El Paso in Segundo Barrio, actually, which is kind of I think it still is the poorest zip code in the United States, probably. Um, but living there, growing up there, it it was like we had everything, nothing. We weren't missing anything. Of course, it was during the time when neighbors still helped each other, talked to each other all the time. My mom never learned how to drive, so we walked everywhere. We walked to school, we walked to catechism, we walked to church. Because we were so close to downtown, we walked downtown a lot. And my dad worked for the parking place on Providence Hospital, when you used to have to pay for parking to get into the hospital. And so every Thursday night we would walk, because he would work nights. We would walk all the way to Providence. So my mom wanted to make sure he wouldn't spend the paycheck that he was going to get paid. So that was our Thursday nights. And there was the Taco Bell there. We would have Taco Bell every Thursday night. And I mean, that was my parents were married for about 50 years, and very important part of our childhood. My grandparents lived right next door. And unfortunately, my grandparents or my parents never owned a house. So I grew up renting and having to move, from house to house, because they never owned a house.
Wow.
So
So, uh, was that something that I mean, did you think about that at the time when you got into the business, or was getting into the title business just to find a job? Because I think you started in a clerical role. Was that correct?
it was just to find a job.
Okay.
I didn't even know what the title company was,
Right.
what the title company did.
So you grow up, you had siblings?
I have two, I'm the oldest. I have two younger sisters. Went to high school, went to boy high school, straight A student, did great. Um, Met somebody during high school that was a little bit older than me. And at 17, I decided, I was in ROTC. I decided I was going to sign up for the Air Force. I did everything for that I needed to do for the Air Force. I was actually going to do um my training the summer before my senior year. So I had everything set up. Once I did that, when I came back, I was gonna finish off my senior year, do the reserves in the meantime. And once I graduated from high school, I would continue with my career in the Air Force. Well, that didn't happen. I dropped out of high school and I got married. My mom actually had to go sign for me, so I could get married, and didn't do anything else, didn't go back to high school. My first job was J.C. Penney, downtown, in the boys department. Made great friends. All of the people were older than me, and never said, well, I said, I'm going to go back to school. So by this time I had moved to the lower valley. So I was going to back to high school to try to finish. And that didn't work out. So at 19, I had my first daughter. Um, and then 18 months later, I had my second daughter. And then I was a single mom. My ex-husband and I separated. Um, then we kind of got back together and had my third daughter. So at 24 years old, I already had three kids, three girls. And and my ex-husband decided it wasn't going to work out. So at that time, I became a single, homeless mom of three kids. So I hadn't really thought about my story until one time I was kind of just thrown. It was a WCR event. And they said, can you go and tell us, your story, what you did? And I had to come up with it in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It was the first event where my mom had actually joined me at the event. So that was my biggest thing where I'm like, oh my God, because it takes a village to be able to succeed. So that's my biggest thing. And so then I remembered, I'm like, oh my God, I did go through all this, but because I hadn't thought about it, I was just trying to survive to make life better for my kids. Now that I think about it, so once I told my story, it was a lot of people came up to me, thanked me for telling the story. And then of course, like 2 years ago, we had another WCR event where they had a lot of women that had overcome that. So it was great. I got the opportunity to tell my story again. And so, I remember, and it's like I had in 1994, I had my first Thanksgiving at the Salvation Army. That's where I had Thanksgiving. So just trying to overcome getting, a job, whatever I could do. In about 1995, probably, or 94, was it? I was homeless, but I did reach out. I actually went to the shelter for battered women for about a couple of months. And I decided I did not want to stay there for more than 3 months. And so I was able to find an apartment with the YWCA where they have that apartments where you can live on your own. They'll help you, but you have your own place. And so I did that while I was still working. And they approached me. They had an agreement with El Paso Community College stating that they wanted people to go back to school. They were going to pay for school. They were going to pay for childcare, transportation, because they wanted, of course, it was during the time where they had injection molding here, which was big in El Paso. And so they offered, why don't you go back to school for injection molding? It's going to be big. We have companies that have partnered with us. You're going to get a job. And I said, okay, that's fine. So the day I go register for school, I'm signing up. I'm excited about it. And they tell me, you know what? There's no more room for your injection molding class. They said it's all filled up because, of course, everybody in El Paso wanted to take that class. I had already quit my job that I had. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And so he said, why don't you go into and be into the class to be a machinist? And I was like, what's that? He said, well, they're the people that make the parts that go into the injection molding machines. I said, okay, I guess. And when I went in there, I had no idea what I was doing in school, but I finished school, got my GED. And then I was already, at this time, I was already like 8 months pregnant with my third daughter. And I got hired for Alcom Yazaki, where they made all those parts for Toyota, for Ford, for all the automotive industry. And it was tough because it's men are usually the ones that do that, the machining and everything. So I hung in there and I just made the best that I could. Then I met Federico in that business. And so it was really fast relationship. And we actually hit it off, and he asked me, do you want to have a baby with me? He hadn't ever been married, never had any kids. And I was like, sure. So of course, 9 months later, I had my other daughter.
So you had three from your previous marriage.
I had three from my previous. Yes. Uh-huh.
And now
yes.
you got this guy that's going to take you in, but also wants to have not take
yes.
you. I'm just saying,
yeah.
Because you're a package, right? Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like how I wasn't thinking, right? I mean, I love my kids. Yes. But I'm all like, now that I think about it, I'm all like, wow. And so I lost my job there at Alcom because we couldn't work together. So I went on maternity leave and I couldn't go back. And it actually just worked out because Federico said, why don't you stay home and take care of the kids for a little bit? And I was like, okay, but I am not one to just stay home. So during that time, I decided to go into IBC, which was the business school here in El Paso. And I said, I'll just go into that business school and see what I can do. At that time, I was selling lingerie on the after school. I would go sell lingerie to offices around town, and I was making a good side business from that. And then I also started working for Project Bravo when they brought in their CHIP program here to El Paso. So I would go to different schools to get everybody signed up, all their kids signed up. Because of course, at that time, people were scared that if they weren't legally here in El Paso, they couldn't get that for their kids. So it was tough trying to get to the colonias here, making sure that all the kids were covered with insurance. So then I did finally graduate from IBC. I got a certificate as an business administration or administrative assistant. And I got interviewed at Stewart Title. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but the place looks really nice. It's a place maybe I want to work at. And I was interviewed by 7 people at that time. And so it was my first interview that I had a panel of people interviewing me. And they said, well, we'll call you back. And they wouldn't call me. So I got another job at a business school, but I really wanted to work at Stewart Title, even though I didn't know what I was going to do there. And so they finally called me. So this was in 2000, July of 2000. That's when I started. And they told me, the job that we have open is you're going to be a clerk. I said, okay, that means you're going to be the assistant to everybody, including the receptionist. So whoever needs your help, you're going to have to go in and do whatever they tell you to do. I said, okay, that's fine. And it was during those days where you had to run documents to get filed at the courthouse, come back to, just depending if it was very important that they had to be recorded right then and there. We went back to the courthouse. And so I kind of picked up on it quickly. I worked in the commercial department, and back in that day, you had to make binders with all copies of all the title commitment, all the exceptions, plat maps. So the binders were this big, and you had to make about 10 of them for each transaction. So that's what I did. It was during the time where we could do flyers for real estate agents, flyers for the builders. So Friday, 4:00, we were doing flyers for open houses during the weekend, just doing everything. And then they came to me and they said, well, we have some good and bad news for you. I said, okay. And I said, well, give me the good news first. And they're like, we're going to give you a raise. The bad news is that we need a receptionist, and you do such a great job at helping everybody. So you're going to be the new receptionist. I said, okay, that's fine. That works. And so I did that for maybe a couple of months. And then I went to be the president's assistant. And so I still didn't know why I was doing what I was doing until I actually got sent to title school. And when I sat there in title school, it was just like, oh, okay, that's why we do what we're doing, which was, I really got interested in it. And it just happened to be where, we need help over here. Can you come over here? And so I was always kind of helping wherever they needed me. In 2002, right after 9/11, I started feeling a little bit sick. By this time, my youngest one, Celeste, was probably 5 years old. And in 9/11, I started feeling really sick. I had some work done on my teeth, and I had to go to the doctor, and it turns out that I was pregnant. And I was taking birth control, but because of the antibiotic, I didn't know it cut the effect of the birth control. So I'm pregnant with baby number 5. I was afraid I was gonna lose my job here at the title company just because I was like, that had happened to me previously. And then when I found out I was gonna have a boy, well, I was thrilled with that. I didn't know how to tell my employer, but at this time I was going into work on Saturdays. Just whenever they needed me, I was always there at work, and I could bring my daughter with me. So my mentors, they came and said, "You're gonna have a baby," and I said, "Yeah." When are you gonna have a baby? I said, "Well, I'm already 5 months pregnant." And they asked me like, "Oh, when were you gonna tell us?" I was just like, "Well, I guess when I had to go to the hospital, that's when I was gonna tell you." So they were really happy about it.
Was it your
I
daughter that
I
told them you were pregnant, or how did they find out you were pregnant?
My daughter, yes,
Yeah.
Celeste, my daughter was the one that told them I was pregnant. Oh, my mom's gonna have a baby, and
From the
they
mouth
came.
of babes. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I was just like, oh my God, I couldn't believe that. Well, so there I go. So I had my son in 2002, and then in 2002, I moved to another office. I was assistant in another office. Um, and I just liked being an assistant to an escrow officer. And we had a builder, and kind of with the builder, I was like, I'm already bored of doing kind of the same thing with a builder because they have a preferred lender. You do the same thing. And so she started getting resale business. And I just said, I'll take care of your resale business because it's never boring. Of course, we all know how resale business goes. And so I started doing that. And so agents wanted to close with me. And so that's how I became an escrow officer in 2000, only in 2004, because that's when I had my youngest daughter, Heaven. So now there I go now, 6 kids later. So I
Literally
was,
in less than 3 years, or
yes.
you went from being a clerk to a
Mhm,
receptionist to an administrative assistant or executive assistant to
mhm.
a title or an escrow assistant to an
Uh-huh.
escrow officer.
So an escrow officer. Hmm.
For
Yeah, it's just,
those that understand the title business, that's unusual. Many people have to go many years, and this is the sequence you see a lot in the title business. People kind of started. Many of the people that are in, people don't just like go and wake up one day and say, "I want to be an escrow officer," or go to college, say, "I want to be an escrow officer." They usually start, to Patricia's point, but you had a very fast track.
I did.
Most of the
Uh-huh.
time I see people are 10, 8, 9, 10 years before they go to escrow officer. They start in that clerk or that receptionist, and they go at being an escrow assistant, escrow officer assistant. So that's amazing. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but I just
No, no,
wanted
it's
to
okay.
show the parallel because it's a
Mhm.
big difference from what we see in the industry a lot.
Yes. And then, of course, at this time, there was a escrow officer that was going to be retiring on the west side. And so they asked me, can you go take care of that office? And I'm all like, do I have to go to the west side? Because I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to the west side or not. Because when I was in the Northeast, Andrew Haggerty actually said, you're in the Northeast, you have to take off your suit. People here in the Northeast are relaxed. We're gonna be intimidated by somebody trying to wear a suit here in the Northeast. And so I was like, okay, works with me. I come to the West Side, and it's very different, very different market, just because um people be want to be more secretive. They don't want to celebrate that closing, enjoy that closing, because a lot of the times it's where they're moving from one company to another, doing stuff like that, where they don't want everybody to know. And so I did, and I was at the West Side for almost a year uh by myself, with just an escrow assistant and a receptionist. And so it was really hard, because it was really hard to be take vacation, to do anything, because it was only 3 people. So during my time on the west side, then we got more people in that office, which made it easier for me to be able to go market myself, because I always know, like, if you're an escrow officer, you can't rely on your business development officer to go and market for you all the time. You have to be the one out there because they want to know you, the escrow officer, the one that's going to be taking care of their customers. And so I did. And at that time, I was able to get two big builders here in El Paso, which was Palo Verde and Edwards Homes. Of course, I couldn't handle both accounts because they're big accounts. So I gave Edwards to somebody else on the other side of town. And thank goodness I did so well that I was so busy here on the west side. And I was doing that for a while. During that, I was working 40 plus hours. I decided, you know what? I need to go back to school. I want to get my bachelor's degree, especially after 2008. I said, I saw some people being laid off. And I said, you know what? I need to have a backup. I need to make sure I'm ready for anything. So I did go back to school to get my bachelor's degree. So I was working 40 plus hours a week, going to school, the 6 kids, activities for them and doing all that. And then after I got my degree, I said, you know what? I'm just going to go get my master's degree because I'm already in this process where I'm already being able to handle all this. I said, if I stop, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this free time. And so I did. I went back to school and got my master's degree. But I was always out there doing the marketing, going out and marketing for myself. And so my mentors, because they were really my greatest mentors, I think I was able to be where I'm at right now because of them, because of the way they taught me. Unfortunately, a lot of people might know Judy English. She passed away. And that was, you become family with the people you work with. So we just became family. We're at each other's houses all the time. She had a special needs adopted son that my kids called him, that's our brother. And so she passed away. And then, of course, another biggest mentor was Cindy Bilby. She was actually the first woman president here in El Paso. And so with her as well. And so they said, why don't you go into sales? Because you do so good in the sales, you're getting customers in the sales part. And so I did sales for the past 7 years. And it was a little bit hard because I know the title side of it. I was always trying to fix the title side of it as well with the sales. So that was a little bit hard. So last November, Frank called. You wanna let them know how you called me?
You tell it because I'm sure you'll tell it better than me.
So last November, Frank asked, if we could talk, and I said, yes, definitely, I was open to that. And so when he asked if I wanted to move to Clear Title, it just was like, wow, you know what? I don't want to do the sales anymore because all the sales I'm doing, I can be doing them for myself or going back to escrow. And so we had a talk and everything, and I did it. It was like my loyalties. I had, I stayed there at the company I had been with for such a long time, and I became the manager of the commercial department and went into closing. So I've been doing the closing since November. And then 2 weeks ago, is that already like a week ago? It's barely been a week. It was a week on this Monday. Frank sent me a message and I said, okay, I'm willing to listen, no promises. And so right away, in less than 24 hours, I had already decided that I was going to come join your team, and everything. I had already done all my boarding paperwork by 6 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. And then by 8:30 in the morning, I was already at Frank's office. So, and everybody that I talk to, they can hear how happy I am. They tell me, you sound so happy on the phone. So I am very happy with my choice that I made.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, and that was a Hail Mary of all Hail Marys. This call the last time, and frankly, the
Uh-huh.
first call was because we had zero expectations, but you don't know unless you ask. And I always tell everyone when I'm doing sales training, like, you know, you have to ask for the meeting, you have to ask for the business. You don't know, and don't ever second guess yourself. No. But I want to hit a couple things, but I want to make sure we have enough time. We're already up against the clock, and that's a little bit. We started a little late on our end, but we'll go when people will record this, and we'll snippet all the first part. So we'll just have this to be about you. But I want to go back to a couple of things. So I mean, you went from being homeless. I mean, I guess you had your parents, but were your kid? I mean, y'all weren't technically living on the street. You were either finding shelter or finding family or friends to figure out a place to live, I assume. And but that had to be really hard having three kids, trying to figure out how am I going to do that. Did Was it all on you? You said you were a single mom. Because number one, I mean, the stress I can only imagine had to be just it made crazy at that, especially that age in your early 20s.
It was. Um, my parents didn't really. I didn't want to go back to my parents since I had left since I was 17, and I said, you know what, I have to figure this out on my own. And thank God, I mean, I always had the right people show up for me. Just like when that day when I was walking, because a lot of the times I didn't have a car. So I had to rely on public transportation or walking. And I was walking by those apartments, and they were centrally located. And so I stopped and I asked, I said, how do I get into one of these apartments? And he said, oh, you know what? They're for single women. And I'm like, sign me up. I'm a single woman with a single woman with three children. And so I was able to get into that apartment.
Wow.
So,
Well, I mean, that's amazing when, and I think what a testament to others that, maybe either hit rock bottom or at a place that they don't want to be. And I know you've given this message to others and before, and I know we have other people in our organization that have
mhm,
stories that have shared, whether it's with YWCA or other organizations as well. And so I want to get to the business aspect of this a little bit because I mean I always want people to leave here. I mean, you did 7 years of sales, but prior to that, you were an escrow officer. You had to build
yes.
this pretty quick. You've got two huge accounts, between Edwards and Palo Verde. And what was there anything I want to? I guess the first question will be is what do you know today that maybe you wish you knew back then? And as far as either building relationships or getting in front of people and because I think that's the hardest thing. It's one thing for people to be able to sell real estate, but we're in the people business. I always say we're not in the real estate business, we're in the people business. We're the same business you are, Patricia. What is it that you do? What do you wish you knew today or back then that you know today as far as building relationships and things like that?
The follow-up I think is very important. And just like you said, I've learned that if you don't ask, um you're never going to know, and it's either going to be a yes or a no. But a lot of the times people are going to give you that opportunity, and so that's the only thing where, you know what, I need to do learn and be more on the follow-up. Make sure that if they said yes and I had that first call or that first meeting with them, to continue doing the follow-up to make sure that that they do say yes for the rest of the transaction.
I think that's a common denominator we hear, especially when the markets were really hot. It's you just went from deal to deal, took the next deal, and there was you're not saying you, I'm just saying people in general. There was not that follow up. There was not that keeping in touch, those touches and that nurturing that needs to be done after the sale to continue the relationship. Um, when you were doing your business development, and I guess you're probably going to be doing some now, because you're really having to go back out. You got a brand new phone number. I mean,
Mhm.
guys, Patricia's, I think, was it your first cell phone ever? Was it Stewart?
Yes. Yes,
So
it
her
was
first
yours.
phone ever was given by the company. to her. They own the phone number. So not only did she walked away from what she knows her whole life, basically, other than those few years prior to that. And, and from a company that really, was with her from the start of being a clerk through all these different roles, through getting your bachelor's degree, through getting your master's degree, having children, having mentors that passed and that were there. I mean, this was a huge step for you. And, I
Yes.
don't know if you remember, and I probably still have to be doing it, but last week, I think I was still calling you every day, just like, are you okay? Is everything good? Because I
Yes.
was more worried about your mental state than, are we, was your onboarding okay? Or is the systems okay?
Mhm.
Top working. My concern is that, you know, at least my assumption was that, you know, at some point you got to be like, what the hell am I doing? Like, and I'm taking a big risk and a big chance on, this fat bald guy and Penny that are basically, telling you, come on over, let's have a good time. What, you know, what's been going through your mind the last week?
What's been going through my mind, it's different. There's different things that I have to do here that I didn't ever have to do. And I kind of did because during that time I also had to go work for Stuart Title in Granbury and Corpus Christi when they lost all of their employees. I had to go do cleanup. And so, just that's the difference, but just owning up and just being truthful to the customers and being honest and saying, if you mess up, you know what, I did mess up. I'm sorry this fell through. We're really trying to get there. Some training on the new system. But other than that, I'm very excited about being here.
And what
And
was
I see, I'm
and
sorry.
tell me what was the draw? I mean, you could have raised your hand and any title company in this town would have picked you up and they would have paid dearly for you as you're worth it. What was the draw well, it's not like you don't have to puff me or Penny up, even though we like that, of course. But no, but what was the draw? Because I mean, obviously, it was the community we foster here, the people here. Because what was it? Can you put a
Yes,
finger?
the people here, the vibe, everything you guys do. And frankly, nobody ever asked me.
They
Nobody
assumed
ever
they
asked
couldn't.
me.
They assumed
Huh.
they couldn't have you.
And now people are like asking me, they're like, oh, why didn't you come when we this and that? I'm all like, nobody ever asked.
I'm having a conversation right now with a, if not top 10, top 20 agent here in El Paso, and that agent, she said the other day, I've been waiting for a year for you to reach out to me and ask. And in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
we have our agents that do so much of our referrals and recruiting. We have a big marketing team that does a lot of our stuff for us, and and a lot of times I just would stay clear of that top 40 or 50 agents because I just feel usually they've got a, they're the Patricias of the real estate business, and they're usually embedded. They're inner circle, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, you never know. So tell me this, Patricia. I want to I want to open up for comments, but I want to get a couple more things. I mean, you know, you look back from your humble beginnings, and it sounds like it's not, I mean, I don't think you'd probably change a thing in your life. Maybe you would, I don't know, but it sounds like everything worked out right for the right reasons. I'm sure a lot of lessons, but you're in high school, you're a straight A student, you're an ROTC, like, you're signing up for the Air Force. Everything is, your path is set for you. And then you decide, oh no, let's go and have fun and let's have a baby and let's do this. And we've all done that, all been there. What has real estate done for you? Or when I say real estate, the real estate industry. You look back over your career and also where your humble beginnings are. What can you could you have thought when you were homeless that you would be where you are today?
No, never. And the real estate industry has been the best thing for myself. And that's why I value any customer because they're actually last year I sold a house. That apartment living was going to be great for me and my daughter. Decided lived in an apartment for 3 months, decided to go buy a house during where I had to wait 3 times for somebody's contracts to fall before they would accept my contract. So it's like, I'm not going over $5,000. That's all I'm paying. I'm in an apartment if I get it. And I was able to get that house, left the apartment, and then recently I bought a house and then I sold a house. So it's just things that I would have never imagined I've been able to do. And I am very grateful because without, the real estate community, that's why like I built personal relationships with all the customers. I've traveled with agents. I go to parties for their family. I do a lot of things just because, I mean, you get to build that relationship, and without, we all have to work together to be able to get and achieve what we want to do. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the customers. To me, that's the most important thing, to get those customers, because I know, especially the people here in El Paso, so many of them think they're never going to be able to be a homeowner. And so that's very important to me. I do a lot with Project Bravo too, like that I don't even market the company, because people, those buyers are never going to say, oh, we want to go with Stewart Title with Patricia. Maybe they might remember, but I just want them to know, you get a real estate agent that's going to help you, and the real estate agent is going to take you through the whole steps correctly that you need to do. Please don't do a for sale by owner.
So what's next for you? I mean, would do anything here? Is there any big goals you have here at Clear and the Clear team and for the home pros from the companies?
Yes. Goals is that we grow this office bigger. We have to build a new office on another side of town so that, we're available for everybody. And goals are to be able to get everybody at Home Pros here working together with us.
I like those goals.
Mhm.
Well, thank you. This was,
Oh, thank
thank you for
you.
sharing. You were very vulnerable. You shared so much, and you've got an inspiring story, and we are thrilled to have you.
I'm thrilled to be
I
here.
said in the video, I mean, it's true. Penny and I were talking about it the other day. Like, I mean, I think we've kind of shell shocked a lot of people when we announced that you joined our family, and we couldn't be happier. And big things ahead for all of us, I think. So we're excited to have you. And
Thank you. Thank you so much.
and the rest of the team. And so anyway, questions, comments for Patricia? No, we're 10 minutes over, and I apologize, guys.
Just real quick, I just want to mention that I know Patricia from long time. And it's funny because back, I think it was 2002, 2003, one of my first closings on the Northeast, you were already the assistant at the Northeast. And honestly, I don't remember the buyer. I don't remember the escrow officer, but I remember you.
Oh, thank
You
you.
were very helpful, and we have built a good friendship through the years. And all I want to say that I have worked with Patricia with so many transactions through the years. She has always been very helpful, and she brings a lot, but extremely a lot of knowledge when it comes to closing and difficult deals. She knows it all. So I think she's a big asset to the company. And I'm just blessed that she's next door. It's like you're gonna be not on the central, not on the east side, but you're gonna be next door. So to me personally, that's gonna be very good. Um, and I strongly recommend Patricia, because she has seen it. I want to say everything from the good, the bad, and the ugly, and she's able to put everything together for you guys. So yeah, that's what I say. And I say,
Thank
it's
you. Thank
when I
you.
saw her here before you make the announcement, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be so awesome. She has because of her knowledge and her friendship, just very easy to get along with her.
Thank you so much, Alberto. Oh.
That's awesome.
Frank
I
said
would like
that
to say
that was gonna
something.
cry.
Yeah, Mayela, go ahead.
Yes, Patricia, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. Very inspiring. We have some things in common. We'll have a chat later.
Yes, definitely. Your story was very inspiring as well. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing it
So,
as well.
yeah, for sure. And you'll get my business, and I will encourage the people that are in this meeting right now to support Patricia. I think you've walked from a lot, but hopefully the change that you've made will be for the better. And I believe that it will be so.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayela.
I think just one quick thing, because I'm excited. So I think just her name, her reputation is going to be a magnet for Clearview. I mean, just out of the box, she's going to bring people that used to go to the other company, and now they're going to be here at Clear Title. I can guarantee you that, because she's awesome.
Thank you so much.
She's awesome. So she's going to bring a lot of business to the company. Because
You know,
of
it's
her
interesting
name,
you
her
say that.
expertise. Yes.
No, I was just going to say it's interesting. You know, when I look at some of the big hires that we've made over the last couple of months, Ray was one, Patricia, Art Ayala, and Aaron, Anaya. But you know, it's interesting how some of our conversations, the leads, you're talking about agents, of course. I'm assuming, you know, for us as well, has been, you know, around those conversations. They certainly have helped, and of course that happens with other agents that come on as well. But it's interesting how the three companies unite, the family of companies. So we're thrilled. You know, Penny and I couldn't be happier. I don't want to speak for Penny, but I'm pretty sure I can speak for her, and she speaks for me. So we're thrilled. Any other comments or questions for Patricia? All right. Well, thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
We went over. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. If you're going out of town, please be safe. We will have announcements out as far as our training on Tuesday, which will be the rescheduled KB Core training, and the Wednesday anything real estate training. So thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.